In this session, we'll be talking about country of origin, short for COO, we'll call it COO. And country of origin basically is a concept where people define the quality of a product depending on where the product comes from. And not necessarily on the features or the attributes, but they use country as a cue to assess and evaluate the quality of a product. So more formally defined, country of origin can be defined as the perception that customers have about the quality of a product or a service that is associated by where that product or service comes from. So it's important to underscore that COO is a perception. It may not be objective and it may not reflect reality, but it's a perception that customers hold that may affect and influence the attitudes that they have towards a product. In other words, their preference towards a product may be affected by the perception of where that product comes from, and eventually this may affect whether they purchase the product or not. So the COO effect then is the extent to which nation equity has an impact on the evaluation and purchase of products and services. So some examples here will show you what we mean by country of origin effect. So when customers think highly of Japanese electronics, so especially consumer electronics. So people think that consumer electronics that come from Japan are of high quality. That will be an example of a country of origin effect, where people judge the quality of consumer electronics depending on where it comes from, and in this case, Japan. Or German cars are of high quality, French wine are of high quality, or Swiss Belgium chocolate are of high quality, or Italian designer shoes or clothing are of high quality. All of these examples underscore the fact that for certain product categories, customers have a high assessment and evaluation of the product because they come from a particular country. So we can think of the reverse situation where the product on an objective manner, from a feature or quality perspective, they may be very high, but they may be penalized or they may not get the credit for being a high quality product because they come from an emerging country, they come from a developing country where people generally think that products that come from certain countries, they can't be good. So then there could be positive country of origin effect, but there could be also a negative country of origin effect. And a term that's used to represent a negative country of origin effect is what we call the provenance paradox, where it's a paradox because the product itself is of high quality, but they don't get the credit and they're not viewed as authentic and high quality because of where they come from. And in this case, because they come from an emerging or from a developing country. So, for instance, Corona beer, it comes from Mexico, and tequila, Mexicans are known to produce high quality tequila, but not necessarily high quality beer. People associate high quality beer again from Germany or from Belgium or from a lot of the European countries. So Corona had a choice to make, when they wanted to start selling, north of the border in the U.S. Are they going to emphasize the fact that Corona comes from Mexico? Or are they going to use a different strategy? Are they going to reposition their brand? And what they ended up doing was they repositioned their brand. They did not emphasize the fact that Corona comes from Mexico, because then it would fall into this provenance paradox, where they would not be able to take advantage of the quality beer that they had. So what they did was they repositioned their beer as a lifestyle beer. It's a beer that's fun, sun, beach. One of their iconic symbols is that they have a lime, that's wedged into their bottles. And when people think of Corona, they think of fun, sun, beach. So they've repositioned their beer and they've de-emphasized the fact that this beer comes from Mexico, and they've repositioned this beer as a lifestyle beer that people can associate with. and they've been able to charge a higher price. And to the point where now it has been the most popular imported beer in the US. Before it was Heineken, and Corona now has overtaken Heineken as the #1 imported beer in the US. So this model shows you the process by which customers think and are influenced in terms of how they decide how country of origin or the country image impacts purchase intentions. So in this model, the CI indicates country image, PCATI indicates product category image, BI represents brand image, and PI indicates purchase intentions. So we have two models here, two competing models, if you will, A and B. And if we go through model A, the way to interpret this model A is the following. So country image, so where the image of a country influences the product category image, the image of the product category, which in turn influences the image of the brand, which ultimately influences whether a customer is going to purchase that brand or not. And we also have a direct arrow going from country image to PI, purchase image. So model A is suggesting that there's two different routes or paths in which country image can influence a customer's intentions to purchase a brand. The first is this indirect route that goes through PCATI, product category image, brand image, and then ultimately to purchase intentions. That's the indirect route. But then it also says that there can be a direct route where it bypasses product category image and brand image, and there's a direct path from country image to purchase intentions. So that's model A. Model B is where it's the same as model A, except that it doesn't have that indirect path. So model A is saying that the way that country image influences whether a customer is going to purchase a brand or not is through affecting product category image, which in turn influences brand image. And research has shown that model B, is more consistent, is more reflective of how customers think than model A. In other words, customers' purchase intentions of a brand is influenced by the country image, which in turn influences product category image, which in turn influences brand image, and ultimately purchase intentions. So for example, Germany. When people think of Germany, people think that, Germany makes good cars, which in turn influences how BMW, Volkswagen, or Porsche, or BMW are perceived, which in turn influences people's images of whether they're going to purchase that brand or not. Rather than having a direct influence from Germany to purchase intentions, it goes through these product category images, and then also it goes through the brand image. So this next framework nicely illustrates, again, using a 2x2 matrix, where we have on the vertical axis, we have product category image. That could be perceived as strong or weak. And then on the horizontal, we have product-centric or brand-centric or brand image. Again, we can say that that's strong or weak. So we have 4 different combinations. So take the example of Germany that I was just talking about. Germany would be an example of where, the product category of cars, they have a very strong image of product category of cars. But they also have the brands such as BMW and Mercedes that have a very strong brand image as well. So Germany is a country where, at least in the automotive industry, they have a very strong product category image, but also a very strong brand image. Contrast that with a country like Turkey for carpets. So most people, understand, well, not everybody, but a lot of people understand that, Turkey makes good carpets. They're known for making good carpets. So that would be a product category. But a lot of people would have a hard time, recalling or identifying, a Turkish brand of carpets. So they don't necessarily have a strong, a carpet brand, although they do have a strong product category, carpets. Whereas the opposite would be true for a country like Austria, for like Red Bull. Take the example of Red Bull. Whereas Austria is not necessarily known for, manufacturing, strong, energy drinks in general, the product category of energy drinks. But they do have a very strong, well-known brand, which is Red Bull. And then there would be, a lot of countries, not just Romania, but a lot of countries would fall under, that fourth cell, that category, where they're both weak. So they don't necessarily have a strong product category, so they have a weak product category, but they also have a weak brand. A lot of countries would fall under that category. So just to give you an example, let's take the example of Samsung. Samsung is a consumer electronic. We all know Samsung, especially for, the TVs that they make and the cell phone, the mobile phones that they make globally. And, 20, 30 years ago, Samsung would have been in that, category where Romania is. Korea was not known for, making, strong consumer electronics, nor was the brand of Samsung well known. It was a weak brand. But over time, they worked hard, and they've been able to elevate the reputation of their brand, where it's hard to pinpoint exactly, but it would probably, where Samsung is now compared to where it was 20, 30 years ago, it would probably be somewhere in between Austria and Germany. It may not necessarily be Germany, where Korea may not be necessarily known for producing the strongest, the most well-known, consumer electronics in the product category, consumer electronics per se. But it's getting better compared to where it was 20, 30 years ago. But it does have a strong brand, Samsung. So it would probably be somewhere in between Germany and Australia.